Welcome to another episode of Property Now. I'm your host, Michael Carbone. My friends call me Carbs, and today, what a panel we've assembled. We're already laughing. We're already having a great time. But it's the buyer's edge. It's the marketer's perspective, what buyers need to know. And I've got three absolute guns with me today. I'm going to start to my left because you're giggling. I've got to stop the giggling. Ellie Cashman, Cashman Consulting.
Hello. Hi. Thanks for having me.
You're the most seasoned. You've been on podcasts before.
Oh, only one.
Make it two. But welcome.
Make it two. Thank you.
You were co-posit for a couple of months.
I was.
You helped us out for a little bit.
It's nice to be here and not heavily pregnant.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. How is the bub?
He's good.
Yeah, good.
He's very good. And yeah, been consulting for 5 years this year. Would you
5
believe?
years.
Yeah.
Ellie Cashman Consulting.
Ellie Cashman Consulting.
You're dealing with a few developers.
Just a few.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
But you got your finger on the pulse because you're speaking to you're across different brands, different campaigns. So that's why I wanted you here to see like what's the difference, what's the secrets, what are the insights. So welcome.
Thank you.
Lisa Smith.
Hello.
You've started your own consulting as well.
I have.
What are you guys called?
Bluenotes Marketing.
Bluenotes
Marketing.
Marketing.
It's just me, myself, and I for the moment.
For now.
For now, exactly.
Know.
I've taken the plunge after 15 years being the client and working for developers to now.
It's so different being on the other side, hey?
So different.
All of a sudden you have to grovel and plead and be nice.
This is true. But it's fantastic. Off to a really great start and a good array of clients in different sectors as well.
So you guys are friends. Are you guys competing or what? Or is this
for sure. No. Well, we were in the trenches together at Crown Group for a good, I don't know, 3-4 years.
We're at Crown Group as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's how Ellie and I met.
That's how we became friends.
Yeah.
Because Lisa and I met at a small developer called Movac.
You might have heard of them.
You might have heard of them.
I remember starting there, and there was yourself. There was a few others. I remember coming in and thinking, we've got this marketing team is a gun team. Like you were marketing manager at the time, and I think you moved on to another small developer called Molfa.
Everything starts with an M.
Yeah.
It does.
A lot of developers do start with M's. I find, but the other voice here is Alistair Cantrill from Bullet.
Yes, not a new starter. We're in year 30, so I know. I know I only look 30, but yeah, year 30 for Bullet. So we're going to do a bit of a celebration this year to make it through that. But I still feel like that we're in startup mode. It's still pretty exciting as well. So that's pretty crazy. We've seen a few cycles as well. So lots of stories around property.
But let's get started, I guess. So talking about the secrets that. The marketing secrets and what buyers need to sort of understand. Ellie, just start us on, I guess the biggest thing we always talk about is the 3 S's, and I've heard you talk about it as well.
Yeah, the triple S rule, being like schools, being stations, being shops, because ultimately buyers want to know, where am I going to send my kids to school? Where is the nearest retail? What's the connectivity like? So as marketers, it's so important that we kind of hit those 3 core pillars in any marketing campaign, I think.
Is it always easier from a marketing perspective when those 3 S's have been hit?
Yes, absolutely. If you've got to dig for information, I think it makes our job a little bit harder. But they tend to be the 3 core ones that buyers really care about. And then everything on top of that is a bonus. But always got to hit those 3.
Do we think developers are sort of buying land with that in mind as well, or some of the placemaking and branding?
Ideally, like with acquisitions and where they are, it's a pretty competitive race now to get any greenfield site or any infill site. So ultimately, having those S's would be there, but I think it's our role from a brand and positioning role, and you guys as a marketing role that. Whatever the site is, we have to actually bring out the best parts of that site and people connect with that. So we don't always get the 3 S's and also the whole concept of secret. We can't be secret anymore in this market. We've got to be able to reveal as much as possible. That whole drip feeding of information or going to market too early and not having all those ingredients. Like we're actually giving the advice to some of our clients to slow down until we've got all the information, until we've got all the CGIs, we've got all the master plans, we know what we can tell the market, because the buyers are so savvy now. They want to have all this information. We can't go too early.
Yeah.
If we go too early, we kind of lose them.
Yeah.
But I know it's always hard balance. Like you want to be in market, you want to start building registrations, but
timing is everything.
No
right?
secrets is kind of where we're at with the market at the moment. Tell us what your vision is. Show us everything, and give. The buyers can be in the driving seat of actually doing their own due diligence. So back in a few cycles ago, it would be around drip feeding information and then the role was for them to inquire you come and talk to us and we'll tell you about us. It's not like that anymore. It doesn't matter what part of the market you're working in. You've got to reveal a lot more. They'll make the decision if they're going to come and talk to you, and then that's when you can start converting from there. So the most successful projects that we're working on is we give a lot away to the buyer to make their own decisions, and when they're coming in, they're a lot warmer lead in that sense. But not all developers are feeling like that.
There'd be a bit of pushback, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And I think two things on this. I think at the moment it's the marketer's job, whether as a consultant or in-house, to straddle two sides of it. It's working with the developers and the development team and the decision makers in-house to push them to a launch strategy that meets the market at the moment and the way that people are buying property and what that journey looks like. And then the other side is educating the buyers, the potential buyers, a lot earlier on and for a hell of a lot longer now.
The nurturing is
that
critical
path
now.
to purchase
that
now
has never been more important.
Yeah.
And it's as equally as important as generating leads, I would say, because I think the latest realestate.com.au data is 22 months path to purchase for off-the-plan apartments.
Yeah.
So
and it never used to be like that.
Never.
Yeah.
The FOMO thing does not exist anymore. There is no sense of urgency. Buyers have the power.
Yeah.
And that point to being transparent, if you're not, it's a red flag, I think, in buyers' eyes.
Transparency is the key. And it's funny because we came off, the last cycle was FOMO, it was all about emotion and missing out, right? Whereas then it took a really quick turn. Interest rates started going up and all of a sudden the power is with the buyers. FOMO's not there and developers and agents didn't know what to do for a period
they're like,
of time.
this is such a weird market. What's going on? Yeah.
And I find that... So what's interesting is, and where the pushback from developers might come is they need results today. Yeah. And whereas we're talking about, you can get, if you plan yesterday, you get results today.
Yeah, that's the biggest challenge at the moment is having that conversation with developers about let's hold back, let's not be in market until we're fully ready. They want to be in that market when people are monitoring. So when buyers are going through that phase, if it's 22 months, they'd be going through a monitoring stage. Then they're going through a dreaming stage. So during that dreaming stage, that's where we can really get them emotionally. So from our point of view, from a brand and positioning point of view, the dreaming stage is where you really start getting them hooked into what,
connecting with them.
Connecting with them. Is this the right one for me? Is this the project that I'm aligned with? And then we move into lead generation, convert. So you've got to go from monitoring, dreaming, and then converting. And it's quite a process, and it creates a bit of strategy between you guys as marketers and then us as brand and positioning, making sure that we've got enough in the toolkit that we actually can go through all those stages without sort of running out of all the material that we need.
That wonderful funnel.
Well, I was going to actually say, I don't think it is a funnel at the moment. It's not linear, I think, with the current market. I think there is that early awareness phase and people are doing the research and then it's looping. And it goes back to, I don't know if any of you heard of Google's messy middle research, that they get to sort of this middle stage of what a typical journey would be, and they're going round and round in a loop because they're taking so much longer to do the research, whether it be online, in person, reading, print, whatever it is, before they're getting closer to that conversion stage. So it makes our job a lot harder because that time frame is so much longer. How do you keep them engaged and
it has
warm?
to be purposeful. We have to be giving them purposeful content as well.
Absolutely.
None of this airy fairy sort of generic
time.
copy and sea of the same.
No chat GPT, please.
No redefined, reimagined.
No iconic landmark. No
resort style luxury.
Yeah.
None of that standard 101.
You've got to get cut through these days.
It's not landing, and the buyers are like, we work in markets, and I'm sure you guys too, from first home buyers right up to senior living. So we're talking people in their 20s to people still making property decisions in their 80s sort of thing as well. They're all equally doing the same amount of research. Even in the senior living sort of space, they are doing a lot of online research, and we need to stop sort of treating them like they don't know how to use the internet. They absolutely know how to use the internet.
Yes, they do.
And they know how to deep dive into the internet as well, and we need to be digitally savvy for an 80-year-old as well as a 25-year-old.
They actually deep dive further.
They're silver surfers. They've got more time.
A senior jumping on Facebook reading long-form content.
Whereas,
it's not the 15-second TikTok.
That's actually a really good point. The long-form content for that market is where you can get into a bit of storytelling, and they want to believe in something as well, and they want social proof that they're doing the right thing, especially at that era as well. So.
And they often have their children helping them on that journey as well, and their children are doing a lot of the research and probably asking perhaps the harder questions, the
more technical questions all the time.
Correct. But it's hard, I think, as well, because the other challenge for marketers is the commercial side of it for the developer. They have a feasibility that's got a stack. They have sales targets and they have milestones, might be pre-sale targets that have to be hit. It's coming up with that strategy that's going to achieve all of those goals, which in this market is hard.
And I feel like there's deadlines throughout the entire process, from like finance approval, pre-sales, right through to construction. We need to sell X amount of stock prior to settlement. Like they're constantly shifting.
Settlements have to happen by a certain date to get the money back in the door.
So it's
So how does a buyer navigate this, right? So they know they're all of a sudden, because there's a lot of clutter out there. Like if you click on one CGI of a nice property on Instagram, you're going to get a lot of them moving forward. Like they're just all going to appear. You're in the algorithm. It's there.
We're going to retarget you.
How do you see through that? And how do you see through, like, this is these are just points that a developer needs to hit versus like, is this the right project for me? That's a tricky question.
I guess I would always recommend to developers, like, authenticity is so important. Like I read an AD report the other day where in the top 5 requirements of off the plan buyers in 2025, like credibility from a developer. And unfortunately, like we all know in this room, there have been a few bad eggs
there's definitely
out there.
A stigma around off the plan.
Absolutely. A few bad developers that have sort of trashed, developers in general, I think, for the public. So authenticity is so important, and being credible, even if you have to borrow brand credibility.
It's number one.
Yeah.
Credibility and trust at the moment is number one.
Yep.
Outside of CGI's product, price, all those sorts of things, it's absolutely number one.
Yeah. And that comes back to that transparency point. So, you can say that, you're authentic, but how can a developer prove that? I think buyers want proof. They want those proof points, not just the fluffy marketing.
You need to
spin.
show, not tell, though, as
well. What's
What's
your history? What's your track record been? What's your pipeline moving forward? They want confidence that
who's
this
your
developer...
Who's
your builder?
They want tangible
Is it in-house?
proof.
Is it an external builder? What's their track record like?
Yeah.
What's your quality assurance process? And then that's where, you can use things like construction update videos or third-party testimonials.
So powerful. Buyer advocacy, my God.
Absolutely. Past purchases. There's a lot of tools that developers can lean on in their marketing to communicate that. And I think you're right, Alistair, that goes such a long way in getting cut through in this very big sea of beautiful renders and beautiful view shots.
I think there's opportunities in the messy middle that you mentioned, Lise. And you mentioned funnels earlier. I just want to take a step back. Funnel, just to the potential buyers listening out there, a funnel is, think of a funnel. So at the top, we'll try and get as many people coming in at the top, and then there's a journey that goes all the way down to they're ready to buy and they eventually purchase. It is spinning round and round at the moment, and I think you're right. I haven't heard it explained like that before, but it's a really good way to explain it. Yeah, it does make sense. And I think because for so long it's all been about getting leads, and then the salesperson contacts that lead. And it's all about, you got these portals that, I can get you 100 leads, I can get 200 leads, I can get you 1,000 leads. How qualified are those leads?
Are they of any substance? Yeah. Exactly.
And when you're seeing people on a journey, like you mentioned, 22 months to make a decision and purchase, if you're getting a lead and then you're getting a call from a salesperson, there's a lot of missing.
Yeah. People are not going to take the call from a salesperson if that salesperson doesn't have value to add. So if they can do something like, did you see our latest construction video? Or have you, like, just those sort of soft touch points, not like...
Even, can I download your brochure directly off the listing so I don't have to talk to a human?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I think that's part of the transparency I was talking about. So like it's a balance between data collection, and building a database. But there's also that notion around now, yes, we can give away more collateral without those sort of data capture points, which is kind of it's a new era now. Like, we need to give more away for them to stay engaged with us, not hide behind all these paywalls or
without something in return.
Back in the day, like give out a brochure without coming to the display, unheard of.
Or gated content. You have to submit an inquiry if you want that floor plan.
It is a new era, and it is obviously a risky sort of scenario, sort of talking to certain clients around that. But if they've got a product that becomes so desirable and it's trusted, and we can give a little bit more away, when that lead does come in, it's going to be a quality lead. Like, we can change our numbers and have quality leads versus numbers of leads, and it's going to make the sales team's role so much easier to be talking to people who are a bit warmer and are a little bit more engaged, because they feel like we've given them something of value.
They're way more qualified because they've spent all that time researching. They're going to be A+ buyers.
So
the salespeople call them.
A new era of talking about lead generation and numbers, and I'm sure you guys are on the front line of that as well, because some clients may not be wanting to hear reducing those numbers but increasing the quality. Like, that's the era that we're in at the
That's
moment.
almost an internal education piece that marketers have to take on in explaining to the development managers and the CEOs even why quality over quantity needs to be. I mean, there is always a balance that needs to be struck, because those conversion rates through the buyer journey from, initial inquiry converting, how many of those will convert to an appointment in the display, and then how many of those will convert to an actual sale. There is a little bit of math around that. But what good is a portal that guarantees 200 leads
but they're
if
all
none
rubbish.
of them convert? And it's not, how do you as a marketer justify the spend on that platform if it hasn't yielded a result?
I just think sometimes it's too early. Like, if you're getting 1,000 leads top of funnel, not 1,000 people aren't buying this project, sorry. Unless there's some thousands projects, but you need to understand more about them. And the salesperson, and I've heard from salespeople going, oh yeah, we use XYZ portal. They send us 200 leads. None of them even remember making inquiries.
Yeah.
That's
I've heard that one.
Okay, so that's interesting. So that's way too early for the salesperson to be getting in the room.
Yeah, there's so much irony with a touch point that salespeople need to make. Like, depending on what market is, a really nice phone call is the goal. But at the moment, with so many spam calls coming through, and then obviously the new operating systems for iPhones, etc., it's now identifying. On the way here, I had a call that came up on my screen,
just blocks it now, right?
No, and it actually has now the label, and it says this has got suspicious behaviour, and I just won't reject straight away, sort of thing. So, the ultimate goal would be to talk to a person, but we need to be at a stage where they're ready to engage with us as well, and not being suspicious of who's calling as well. But when you were talking before around seeing all the CGIs online, everything's looking very see the same. Us, from a brand perspective, are doing a lot of work on what we call glance consumption. So you can actually get fatigue when you're doing the sort of depth scrolling on certain portals. And I know we're working a lot on Coastal Luxe as well. We all went through an era of very aesthetic-driven brands, and everything was very ambient, and everything was looking beige on beige on beige on beige, and nothing was standing out. So we put a lot of heavy lifting into what we call glance consumption, where you could look at anything digitally. You could hide the logo of the developer in the project, and you'd be like, okay, I'm connecting with that because I've seen that before, and I know what that project is, and I'm starting to really believe in it as well. And then obviously the addition of the endorser of the developer, the endorser of the project logo is cream on top of that. But, if we're doing our role from a brand perspective, there's a lot more than just everyone looking exactly the same.
It's so important for from a branding perspective, to not have every project look the same, because, we've done so many over the years. It does all start to roll into each other. So it's about distinguishing each project and making sure that it stands out. But I think you mentioned before, like, emotionally connecting with buyers is huge, because we've obviously got to sell something that doesn't exist yet. And this might be the most, financially big purchase of their life, but also a really emotional purchase for them. So the storytelling comes into play there, where you've got to connect with them on more than just surface level.
I've had a couple of light bulbs a few times when I thought, we're working in an industry of selling something that does not exist.
It's the hardest thing in the world.
And we're asking someone to hand over 6 or 7 figures. and trust us.
Biggest
based
purchase
on
of their
promises,
life.
basically.
Not always. They can start
based
with
on a
10K.
dream.
Exactly. There you go.
Not always.
Yeah.
That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah.
This is where I think, though, to that point, the branding and not just the visual identity of the project, but the messaging.
Yeah.
I think of late, especially on that Coastal Luxe piece, a lot of developers, their project brands have lost the point that customers need to see themselves in these brands.
Yeah.
And it's generally an
too many layers back, haven't they? Pared back
Where have all the people gone from the brands?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
Because
true.
a lot of the brands I'm seeing are beautiful CGI,
Of course.
beautiful locations, beautiful product, and beautiful views. But if you don't resonate with it, how can you resonate if you don't see yourself in it? And it's generally a more aspirational version of yourself that you see.
Of course.
But how do you drive that connection?
That's totally true. That's where I get to do a little plug for my business, because our positioning is people.
That's a good.
Our tagline is people to places. So we run strategies differently to a lot of property brand agencies, where we concentrate obviously on product, people, and place. But the people and place components of our strategies are the bits that we put a lot of detail in as well. And connecting people to places is really, really important to us. And that's how you really do stand out, when people start seeing themselves and connecting to that market and that project as well. People, I 100% agree with you. People are getting lost in property marketing, and that is one of the most important pieces.
It's actually really driving me nuts
the
at the
forefront.
moment. I haven't seen a brand for a while that really is bucking the trend, and it's not a trend we should all be following, actually.
It's just sort of happened post-COVID. It's weird.
I think we went into an era of being design appreciators, and people in our own industry we understand property, obviously, because we're all specialists in that area, but I think a lot of the time some of the projects have forgotten that we're talking to consumers.
It's a good point. We're forgetting the customer.
This is my big bugbear. This is my bugbear, because to your point, we're a brand agency. You're talking on the people and the place. I think there's such a big role for the marketers to inform the product at the very beginning, because developers quite often fall into that trap of assuming and thinking they know who they're designing apartments, houses for. But how many have actually done that deep dive research first, and that research informs the architect's brief, and then that marketing has a seat at the table when it comes to the design conversation, ensuring that any of those insights that come out from the research are informing product design.
At the beginning of the process,
Have we asked
I can
customers
actually,
what
if
they
I'm
want?
talking to developers, I can guarantee if they go through that process, they will get a better end result and get the better quality leads, and they'll be able to charge more, which is what obviously
higher
premium
Yeah.
because they've done that due diligence
Do
to
the
start
work.
with. Because I'm actually thinking about adding another P to our strategies, which is around perception as well. So the perception of projects can be done through the research of listening to who's going to be the end user as well, and that's how the perception of that project can be perceived. Another P. But we work in a lot of areas. If it's a greenfield, we've got to change perceptions about maybe moving to a new area, and that's what the whole barrier usually is there's a barrier around maybe I don't want to move to this new greenfield, or maybe I don't want to move to a little bit back from the beach or the coast area for a new project, because that's where the sites are going to start being. So we need to change perceptions.
Absolutely. And I think it needs to go to a depth as well as not just finding out from your potential, target audience about what features of an apartment they like. Do they want,
all
gas
the
or
specs,
induction
exactly.
cooktops, or that is important for the building, the product design, but it's actually really, I think, uncovering what are those drivers for buying as well, what's happening in their lives that's triggering them to actually go on this journey. What are their barriers to buying at the moment, and how can this project solve a problem in their lives?
What are their likes? What are their dislikes? What are they interested in? Like Lisa and I love a spreadsheet. We love to get granular with, the targeting and the buyer profiles.
Absolutely.
Something we've done a lot of.
I thought you were also going to reference, because I know you guys are ex-Mirvac as well, and I think in the early 2000s, they brought forward, it's in the finer details, and it was such a simple ethos, but they started talking about things which weren't the obvious sort of bullet points around property marketing, and it was the finer details that in a Mirvac product you would get outside of the standard.
Yeah.
And that really resonated with that level of buyer as well.
They've taken the time to build their reputation, Mirvac.
Exactly.
And
Absolutely.
I know, like, we used to work there, so we're alumni. But
You work there too, I forgot.
Yeah.
everyone forgets. It's when we talk about the stigma of off the plan, there are some companies like Mirvac that have elevated themselves above that stigma. I've spoken to so many people that say, I wouldn't buy off the plan, but I would buy Mirvac if I was buying off the plan.
Yeah, the old faithfuls, you know.
So, and there's a few like that, but they've done the time to tell that story. You know, they're not just saying, hey, I need 100 leads today so we can reach these targets. They've gone, hey, in the early 2000s we did this so that, and they're seeing the benefits of that.
I know we're talking off the plan, but obviously, you know, they also work, and we work on a few of their projects in the master plan community sort of space, and the efforts of, you know, a developer of that level that puts into streetscaping and planning and all those little nuances. And then when I worked on one of their projects for 13 years, so I saw when there was kids coming into that project, little tackers like this, and then when there was a school delivered, and then they were actually graduating from that school, and everything that they promised right back when they first launched was delivered, and then grew and flourished, and it was just such a they stuck to what they said they were going to do.
They delivered on what they promised.
Yeah,
and I know we're
marketing
talking
in itself, isn't it?
Exactly.
And I know we're talking about Mirvac,
Yeah.
but there's obviously a lot of players who have an equal ethos to that, and it does pay off. Absolutely.
Do you remember Marrickville?
I do.
Of course you do, right? So that was like right in your sweet spot at Mirvac, and there was a lot of like local adversity towards this project. Like that
was a long time ago.
It was a
too,
while
right?
ago.
It was. I mean, Marrickville's one of those suburbs that I think are very clear on their identity as a suburb, and the locals that live there.
They're fiercely loyal.
They are fiercely loyal and not overly, you know, pro-development, I would say. And so for one of the nation's biggest developers, probably the biggest residential developer, to come in and put in a high-density development, of course you're going to rattle the cage of the locals.
You have to be sensitive, didn't you?
You have to. Every developer does, because more often than not, a lot of your buyers are going to come from that local area to begin with.
You need them on board.
You need them on board. Yeah. So I think, you know, that community engagement piece has to go hand in hand with the project marketing strategy.
Got to have that buy-in early. If the community are not on board, it makes our job that much harder.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, when I was at Malfa, like Norwest Quarter was a great example of that, because despite Malfa, you know, owning the majority of the land out there for the last 30 years, Norwest Quarter was the first high-density project for Malfa to deliver. And
award-winning, might we add?
Award-winning, yes. And so, again, that the majority of the buyers have come from the local area, but Malfa's had to do a huge amount of investment into that community to bring them on the journey and to demonstrate, even if you're not a buyer, like, what is in it for me at the end of the day. Yeah. And I think actually...
They want to believe in it, don't they?
They have to. Yeah. They have to. And I think that comes back to the developer's credibility and authenticity, that we're creating a place that's going to become a legacy for this community for decades to come. We're thinking about the ground plane, the public domain, the retail experience, the connectivity through to established areas, not just the built form and the four walls
the bricks
of an
and
apartment.
mortar. Yeah, exactly.
Correct.
Yeah.
That community engagement piece is such a great investment. We were working with a developer that had some noisy locals as well, and the community engagement was done so well that the noisy people ended up ironically registering to live in the project.
I love that happens.
So it was full conversion, and it was an area where, you know, there was a lot of senior people living in that particular area, and they were really worried about traffic, parking,
well, it's got that community consultation has to happen.
But then
early
when they
on
actually
in the piece.
got to look at the project, they were like, "Hang on a sec, this is actually a really great project, and you guys are doing
and
all
you're
the
listening,
right, and you're listening to me.
Yes.
How do I buy one?"
Yeah.
I love
and then
that.
they become advocates for your brand, you know.
For sure.
So it's
But I
great
think
when that
your
happens.
points around research and community engagement before you do anything of the beautiful above the line marketing and pieces that
that's a given,
really
right?
No, but that's the ultimate formula. Like it feels like a bit of a secret sauce scenario, but if you can invest in it, it is money worth.
Absolutely.
We need to go beyond meta ads and nice CGIs. We just need to go beyond that. And I think a lot of marketers, no one in this room, but it's gotten lazy, right? Since meta ads, it's just been like, 4-week campaign, we've got to get as many leads as we can. It's just
4-week campaign. That'd be nice.
Campaign,
Yeah, I was going to say, geez.
Yeah, sorry.
But even with, I think, some of the messaging as well, you know, it's you can almost see that it's being very driven by what the developer thinks should be told and not what's going to resonate. You know, there are those tactics that, you know, you can use around, you know, scarcity and
creating urgency.
Yeah. Even in this kind of market, you know, if I think, particularly in this market, if you can talk to, there's percentage sold, that's great for like a PR message, but does that matter to a buyer?
No.
Yeah,
it makes no difference to their buying decision.
Yeah.
It probably has purpose in content. It's better off someone else saying it, like whether it's a
third party
versus putting a little splat. Like, I would never do any advertising with a little bubble on it that says 50% sold. Like, I would never allow that.
I think we both might be guilty of that.
But back in the day when the market was great,
exactly,
those tools worked very well, but the market shifted, and so the marketing's got to shift with it.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
If it's about trust, so for example, one that still works like that is construction commenced, right? Because buyers want to know, hey, this project's going to happen. So
I would put that bubble on. So I would put construction because that's a really proud,
a
so
really
there are
proud
some
moment.
Bubbles that we
like.
Bubbles are okay. Bubbles are okay.
Yeah.
Or completion
so
day,
powerful.
you know, completing this spring. You know, there's.
It's a really proud moment for any of my clients that can get to that stage of construction commencing, especially in this particular market.
Milestones topping out.
It's amazing, and you know, it's something that I get a real buzz from when we've kind of got through that stage of lead generation, the appropriate amount of sales to get to that construction commenced stage, and it's just it's a real it's great.
I think it's going further than the bubble though as well. So some of the best developers I've seen do it, they'll celebrate those milestones.
Absolutely.
They'll have an event at the sales suite. They'll get speakers. They'll have food, drink, and they'll celebrate. Hey, you know, we've started. We've started digging a hole in the ground. Invite buyers. They can bring their friends, and maybe there's more buyers there. Like that's where the community and the neighbourhood begins to be built.
That's always a wonderful content opportunity.
Great content.
It is.
All of these on-site events, groundbreaking.
All for the gram.
All for the gram.
Usually is a trigger point. I know you guys will probably be working in the infamous downsizer market a lot as well, and then they need that proof as well, like all buyers. But as soon as that construction commences, then you'll see them sort of coming out of the woodwork a little bit more as well, and they'll be like, okay, this is happening. I'm going to drop, you know, X amount of million on this project now.
There is, but there's that great opportunity then, if depending where your project is up to take people physically on the journey, take them on a hard hat to it.
Yes.
You know,
more of that, more real stuff.
Touch and feel and negate some of those fears that they have around off the plan. I think educating them at the earlier stage on how the off the plan process actually works, because probably a lot of that downsizer market have never bought off the plan before. Ever.
It's true. We think of them as like seasoned property investor professionals.
Yeah, but they've always bought
They
established.
probably bought an established project 40 years ago. It's now worth
the family
a lot.
home.
It's the family home, and all of a sudden they're back in the market buying a 2-bedroom close to the shops. And they need to be handheld and educated, and you know, all of these things need to happen. All the trust.
So that path to purchase is so important, and we've got to educate them every step of the way. So,
and I think it's also acknowledging that not everyone has the same path to purchase. A downsizer's path to purchase would look very different to, you know, your double income, no kids, or your upgrader,
or an investor who's
done their
particularly
who is seasoned.
The agent can
you
call them right now.
You have to pull different levers for different groups, for sure.
Yeah,
they're the ones who are going to ask a lot of questions. So downsizers will be asking, is there a laundry? Where's my storage?
Yeah, the
most overlooked room in an apartment, I would say.
Where's my car park? Where's my car park? And,
they will.
Measurements are really important for them, and then how we do floor plan sheets as well. They study them like to the nth degree as well.
One trend I've noticed lately is developers, we did a few times at Crown, but they'll fast track an apartment during the construction phase, literally to just have a finished product ready to go to take buyers through.
That's
so important.
Yes.
And that gets sales away better than any
it's tangible, isn't it?
Any digital marketing.
You did a really cool long-term thing with Crown that I always think of whenever I'm watching maths.
Why? Oh my God, Sky Suites.
Well, just getting
I believe it's been rebranded.
It has been rebranded, and I think Crown is obviously
sadly
that's all changed. But just stuff like that you don't. It's long-term, man. All of a sudden, you've heard of the brand, and there's a bit of trust there, and you know, not ashamed to say, my wife and I, we put the kids to bed, we'll watch maths, we'll enjoy it, we switch the brains off.
And Lisa was there for it too. But we loved a partnership, and that real sort of high-end, top-of-the-market space, I think brand partnerships were so powerful. Like we would do Porsche drive days and exclusive whiskey tastings with Shivers Regal and,
jewellery brands.
Yes.
Yeah.
And getting them down to the physical display suite, but having a sort of an angle, a pull to get them there, not just to come and look at the display suite.
You're showing up in their world.
Correct.
Rather than like being in your face.
Yes.
Which I think is so important, what's missing today.
Yeah.
It really is.
And it's positioning the developer or the project brand in line with the brands that they already have an affinity with. Exactly. So that
we offer more than just apartments.
That's right. I think partnerships are an underutilised tactic in marketing.
It's also an interesting angle around the makers as well. Like that's coming above the line a lot more is like buyers are interested in who's your landscape architect, who is your architect, who's your interiors.
That credibility
who are you building this project with? And that's definitely been a trend that's come to the surface a lot recently is the makers behind the project as well. So you inherit their credentials.
Absolutely.
Well.
And I've seen a lot of success again, when I was at Molfa with penthouses in particular, that's a whole nother group in itself, a potential penthouse buyer. But taking them on the journey where you're sitting them in the room with the penthouse architect and he's got his paper and his pencil
and
out.
All the
that's
finishes
powerful.
And it's really tangible.
And they're feeling like they're getting something completely bespoke.
Yeah.
It's
quite a bit of theatre around it, isn't it? There? Like meet the architect who's designing your penthouse.
But there's that genuine authenticity to really want to deliver something that this customer wants, and
that top end of town, if they're able to customize almost every element prior to construct,
it's fantastic. How fun!
Well, the ultimate goal is
I'm going to combine 3 apartments because I can afford it.
Sitting with the architect, the ultimate goal is for them not to customize.
From a developer perspective.
But going through that sort of piece of theatre, they may want to feel like they don't need to customize because they completely entrust what's happening in that space, and it's a good scenario because usually a lot of developers have to hold back the penthouses and release them later because people won't understand the quality or the scale and those sorts of things, and it's usually leaving money on the table. So if you can do that extra step, meet the architects, see the interiors, and convert a penthouse off the plan, that's
before
amazing.
Construction starts, why not?
Absolutely. And I think then that experience and a lot of those kind of hand-holding customer experiences drive so much word of mouth, particularly on that downsizer market. They all love to talk about what they're doing, and it's almost social currency in a way that they've had this, custom bespoke experience. And we've noticed out in those downsizer markets, the word of mouth, the sales that come from word of mouth and referral is
well, that's amazing. That's why print's still alive for that market as well. Like the old days of a really beautifully curated hero brochure, which is really tangible and it's got all the elements and it's coffee table level. Like they love social proof. They'll leave it on their coffee table and people will come over and they'll be like, "Oh, what's that? Oh, that's the new project we've bought."
And after 15 years, I still love it. It's still my favourite part of
the brochure.
It's something tangible and beautiful. Exactly.
A digital experience, a really strong digital experience for due diligence and getting to know the project, but then a tangible piece of
that they can take away from the display suite. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You touched on something. I'm going to take a little tangent, but you talked about holding back the penthouse. So there's always stages, right? So depending on how big the project is, but not everything is going to be available at once, right? So can we help the buyers understand what that process might normally look like or what a rollout might look like?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It does come down to if you're working for a national developer or multinational developer versus a boutique as well. There's usually different sales strategies around that. It's usually intended to keep buyers focused on a certain quantity or amount of product as well. But if you can have a nice mix of product in your mix as well, like that for your releases, but your release strategies sort of link in with that as well. So that's probably more of a sales strategy. We get brought in sometimes if a sales strategy has got to a point where there might be a tower and there's a stack of apartments that for some reason aren't selling, whether it's the
harder to
orientation,
shift.
if they're facing south, or we had to work on one project where there was a core of 1-bedroom NPRs, which was an unusual floor plan, but they were really...
Can you explain an NPR?
An NPR multi-purpose room.
Was there a giant column in the middle? What are we talking?
But this particular developer that we're working with, like, they were really quite generous second rooms. Actually, the scale, and buyers also sometimes struggle, rightfully so, what square meters convert to. And now the size of a 2-bedder. So we had to switch into campaign mode around a project that had already launched and really promote that 1-bedroom NPR stack. And we had to come up with a campaign to explain the reasons why these were fantastic apartments. And it was... We renamed the product 1-bedroom max, and the whole
iPhone
campaign,
Max.
it was literally based on an iPhone Max, and it was all around that maximum value. Like, you're still paying a price for, somewhere between a 1 and a 2-bedder, but you had that maximum benefit of that, that Zoom room or more room, and we came up with a campaign that sort of ran around that. So sometimes in sales strategies, you do hit a hurdle where things aren't selling to what your momentum is, and us as marketers and us as a branding and property agency can switch gears into campaign mode and solve that problem and get that solved. That is the biggest buzz when the campaign goes live. Inquiry comes in, and then you hear from the client or the developer, we've started selling those now, and because the market understands what they are.
And I dare say that's...
Did I answer your question around sales strategies?
I forget what my question was. No, that's fantastic.
I dare say that's like maybe the hardest part of a marketing campaign. Like, yes, pre-launch is hard, but it's that post-launch, shifting that less desirable stock and constantly changing.
Well, there's a lot to do pre-launch. It's what happens after that.
Yeah.
What stories?
That's when the hard work begins,
Yeah.
because you've got all of this residual stock that you need to shift, and it's like strategies like that, creating the iPhone Pro Max 14, 7 Plus. That's what's going to
and quite often as well, if they're at a stage where you can have display apartments, there's merit in styling your most expensive available apartment, but there's also merit in styling your worst layout, because people struggle to understand. They look at a floor plan and go, oh gosh, that looks tiny, or that's an awkward space. Well, let's show them how it can be used.
Yeah, absolutely.
And styling
Powerful
it to
tool.
suit the market as well. What's a downsizer going to resonate with in styling, or what's a young couple?
What colour palette are they going to
style
absolutely.
a multi-purpose room as a nursery or a workout space, or always thinking of the customer.
Well, to your point before, if the appropriate process had to happen, which was research, community consultation, and all that diligence, we wouldn't have those floor plans. Like, we wouldn't have. I know there's always going to be a harder to sell sort of floor plan, but we should be listening to the market before that sort of development.
And there is always opportunity, I think, for developers to a point, adjust along the way. I know of a project that, there is always a balance that they have to strike between the mix of 1, 2 and 3 beds, speaking very broadly. But after that initial launch, there's a lot of insights that can be taken from that and guide the next direction in terms of that phase. And combining, three bedders sold really, really well, 2s and 1s not so much. Are we at a stage early enough in the project delivery that we could actually combine 2s and 1s to offer more 3s, because there's a lot of depth to that 3-bed market at the moment.
Just quietly love to see some 4-bedders in there too.
It's a rarity, right?
Yeah.
It is.
Maybe done 3 or 4 projects over the
on the
years.
horizon, and they're heading towards the 4-bedder market, 1 per floor or 2, half floor projects.
Yes.
People are wanting only to be in a project of 8 to 10 apartments and that sort of pieces as well. And they're wanting 4 bedrooms. And I think we're also missing the market around families moving into apartments as well. We're such a traditionalist property market in Australia that we forget that families do also want to live in school zones, and there may not be appropriate housing or terraces that sort of suit them. So why aren't we doing big 4-bedders for families?
Absolutely.
In those areas.
Normalise 4-bedroom apartments.
Especially in the less affordable areas, right? You can't have a house on a big block in every suburb. Unfortunately,
you just can't.
Can't afford it. And so some of these appropriately sized apartments would be lovely to see.
I do think our market's maturing, that families are starting to really look at apartments as an option if they are well designed and have the right zones and those sorts of things as well. But I think it's pretty untapped.
Who would have thought that getting a few marketers in a room would probably be one of our longest episodes ever?
It's our job.
We can talk.
I feel like there's a part 2, maybe a part 3 coming. I want to give everyone an opportunity. Can we go around the room? I want to talk about the new rules for marketing, because I'm very vocal about developers all seem to market the same way, and I'd love to see some new exciting tactics. So I want to go around the room. I'm not sure who's game enough to start first, but what's something you'd like to see, a new idea that you'd like to see out there more? Mm-hmm. And then you can pitch yourself out to some of the, it's a lot of buyers listening to this, but there's obviously developers and agents listening too, so they can.
I would like to see developers, and you are very good at this, Carbs, but embrace. I do a lot of social. We'll plug that in a minute, but the more traditional platforms being LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I would love for developers to start shifting towards TikTok, because those high net worth buyers, they're on TikTok. Doesn't matter how much you're worth, you are most likely going to be on one of these platforms, and I think that's a very underutilized channel. So I would love to see that.
Interesting.
It's a hot take.
More TikTok.
More TikTok.
More prop talk.
Prop talk. So book talk.
And tell us a little bit about your consulting.
Ellie Cashman Consulting. You can find me at elliecashman.com.au. I offer marketing consultancy services for real estate agents, architects, landscape architects, builders, prop tech, you name it.
Love it.
I do it.
Love it. Lise?
I'm going to go back to that earlier point of I'd love to see more developers inviting marketing from the very start of the process.
Yep.
There's so much to be gained by doing that.
Yep.
And it's not to bring them in for marketers to tell people how to design or to redesign. That's not our area of expertise. But our area of expertise is knowing the customer.
Yep.
And sales should be in that conversation as well. And quite often I find that sales are brought in. They'll review floor plans early on. But if marketers have done their research, that needs to be at the very beginning. Yeah. Have marketers part of the architect's brief.
Don't treat marketing as an afterthought.
Yeah, no, and that I think is the default position.
Yep.
Developers will take a product to a point, almost ready to launch. Here you go, marketing.
Here you go.
Go and give me a brochure, and we need 3,000 leads. Bring us in from the beginning, and there's so much more to be gained from that. So I'd love to see the development industry do that a lot more.
And tell us about Bluenotes. How can anyone contact
Bluenotes marketing. You can find me at bluenotes.com.au. Small one-man band consultancy, focusing more on marketing strategy, not just for residential, for other sectors of the industry as well.
Okay, cool. What other sectors, for example?
Commercial and life sciences at the moment. It's quite an emerging sector in Australia, quite big overseas in the US, Europe and Asia, but very emerging in Australia. But it's sort of commercial precincts for reach, science, medicine, biology,
That's interesting. I didn't know
pharmaceuticals.
I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, it's huge.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Al?
And it's still part of that because I actually really adore that idea about getting us in the room earlier because it feeds into my piece that I started off by talking about, and it maybe not ticking the innovation box of marketing currently now, but I feel like the transparency and clarity is what I really are saying around the best way to market at the moment is getting that information out to our buyer sector earlier and empowering them to do their own due diligence and for them to connect with us when they're ready. It's a little bit non-traditional in that sort of sense around lead generation. Normally we want them to connect. We want them to come into us and then we connect back to them. I really want to empower the buyer more to have a lot more information. They'll be much more aligned with us, and if we are getting brought into the room super early, we'll be able to pace that accordingly. So that would be my piece around giving the buyers the power to be able to connect with us.
I love it. And Bullet, 30 years old?
Yeah, apparently 30 years old. That's crazy. We place and property specialists.
Yep.
I actually adore the industry. I've been through many different cycles, and then obviously we're talking
seen it all.
Seen it all. We've been through great areas, and we've been through ones which are more challenging. We obviously really switch gears, and we can really show our value when we move into campaign mode to move stock that needs to be moved, or get eyes on projects that may have brand fatigue and things like that as well. You can look at us from all sectors of the property in place industry. We would be working on anything in the hospitality world, which we adore working on, right through to master plan communities, all the sexy apartments, and then I've got a key obsession with senior living at the moment. It's a big part of our business, and it's something that I really adore working on. And that's where the market's shifting. We're all aging, and it's a whole other podcast I could do on my obsession with senior living and where that should be going.
We're going to downsize episode one day.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so you can contact us. It's Bullet Studios, and at wearebullet.com.au. Pretty much everyone might know us in the industry. We're a small/big agency, boutique in this area. So
what's bullet.com.au?
Wearebullet.com.
Yeah, love it. I will say, top of funnel, early days, don't sell. Don't be salesy. People don't want to be sold to. Absolutely. It doesn't have any cut through. They swipe past it, or they don't even look at it. So be more real, whether it's marketing, advertising, content. Be real.
Aligned with that.
Love it, guys. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Sorry we're so chatty.
We could keep going
after we stop rolling, but we're definitely going to have a part 2. And,
that'd be great.
We'll see what's going on in future. But thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
This is Jason He, the sexiest voice in property, here to tell you that the Property Now podcast offers opinions on Australian property news for informational and entertainment purposes only, and general in nature. It does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. It does not constitute professional advice. Always seek expert guidance before making any property-related decisions.